Ever catch yourself picking at a hangnail? Maybe even when it starts to hurt a little.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right? But we're actually talking about something that, for people with autism, can be way more intense.
Yeah.
Like something seemingly insignificant can get blown up.
Right.
And these things are called dermatillomania and dermatodaxia.
And what's interesting is, those terms sound kind of intimidating,
Right.
but they're actually a lot more common in the autism community than people think.
That's why we're doing this deep dive today. We're going to uncover why, because it's not, like I said, just biting your nails or whatever.
Right, exactly.
It's really something that's rooted in how the autistic brain experiences the world. And we've got some research here
Yes.
that I think you'll find interesting.
Oh, definitely. One of the things that people don't realize is that up to half of individuals with autism might engage in what's called a body-focused repetitive behavior,
Wow.
or a BFRB.
Okay.
And dermatillomania and dermatodaxia are just two examples of those.
I'm actually really curious about that statistic when I first heard that, because it's like, we all know someone who, bites their nails or, plays with their hair or something.
Right.
But it's so much more intense for people with autism.
Right, and it's so much more prevalent, and that's why understanding these behaviors in the context of autism is really important, because we're not talking about just like breaking a bad habit or something.
Yeah.
It's more like recognizing that these behaviors come from a need to regulate sensory input and emotions.
So can you break down those two terms for us a little bit more?
Sure.
Like what are they beyond just the clinical terms?
Yeah, so, as we said, dermatillomania is essentially compulsive skin picking.
Okay.
And we're not talking about, the occasional pimple. We're talking about, persistent, very focused picking that can lead to damage.
Yeah.
And then dermatodaxia is the biting or chewing of the skin. And, unfortunately, while both of those can cause a lot of distress, dermatodaxia doesn't get nearly as much attention in the research.
It's like there's this whole other layer of experience that just kind of gets ignored.
Exactly.
Even within a community that already has all these challenges.
Right, exactly. And what's interesting, too, is while both of these behaviors can affect anyone, we see a real gender disparity.
Really?
Females are much more prone to both.
It's like every time we dig a little deeper, there's like another layer.
Exactly.
So let's get into the why.
Okay.
Why are these behaviors so common in people with autism?
Yeah.
It's like we need to be detectives or something and figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
It really is like a mystery.
Yeah.
We see these things and we're like, okay, what's the root of this? You have to go deeper into the brain.
Exactly. And one of the biggest pieces of this puzzle really is sensory sensitivities.
Okay.
Think about it this way. People with autism often experience the world in just a much more heightened, more intense way.
Yeah.
And that includes sensory input that most of us, we just tune out. We don't even notice it.
Like the tags on my clothes,
Exactly.
certain sounds, like I can't even.
Right, exactly.
And it's like times 1,000 for them.
Yeah. Imagine having the volume turned up way too high on everything.
Yeah.
Like you said, the feeling of clothes on your skin, the hum of fluorescent lights,
Right.
all that stuff.
The feeling of a sock that's like a little bit off.
Yes, exactly. And so now imagine, you're trying to navigate that every day.
Right.
And so for some individuals with autism, dermatillomania or dermatodaxia, it might be a way to create a different sensation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
That they can control.
So they can kind of drown out
Right.
all the other stuff.
Exactly.
By focusing on that.
It's a way to sort of block out, even if just for a little while,
Yeah.
that overwhelming sensory input.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like, I don't know, some people, they like the weighted blankets. Or they, like to knit.
Exactly.
Repetitive motions and things like that.
It's about taking back a little bit of control. And that's even more important when you think about anxiety.
Okay.
Which, anxiety often goes hand in hand with autism.
Right.
We know that individuals on the spectrum are much more likely to experience anxiety.
Right.
And so these repetitive behaviors can almost be like a pressure valve.
Oh, yeah.
A way to release some of that pent-up energy.
So it's like everything's going haywire and you just need something to ground you.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when you consider that these behaviors can provide immediate relief, even if it's temporary.
Right.
From those uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah. It's like a
It can be hard to stop, though.
It's like a release. Okay. So we're putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
It's the sensory overload, the anxiety, needing to control your environment a little bit.
Right.
All those things are factors.
Exactly.
But what about the impact? Because it's, obviously it manifests physically, right?
Sure.
What else? What else is there?
Yeah, and a lot of people might dismiss these behaviors as just skin deep,
Right.
but they can really have a huge impact on your physical health, your emotional well-being, even family dynamics.
Wow. So it's like this ripple effect. It's
Exactly.
not just on the surface.
And so on a physical level, of course, there's the risk of infection,
Yeah.
there's the potential for scarring,
Right.
and there's just the general discomfort of having these, open sores.
So it's like it's a vicious cycle
Exactly.
because you're doing it for relief, but then it's causing all these other problems.
Right. You're getting that temporary relief, but then it leads to more pain and discomfort, and then that makes you want to do it again.
And I imagine the shame and embarrassment of it all,
Oh, absolutely.
especially when it's visible.
Right. And, especially in a society that,
Put so much emphasis on how you look.
exactly, yeah. And, these behaviors can lead to such intense feelings of shame and self-consciousness.
Yeah.
And that can lead to social withdrawal, isolation.
It's like a whole other layer. Like if you're already having trouble with social cues and then this on top of it,
Exactly.
it's got to be really hard.
And we can't forget about the families.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What about the family? Because they're watching this.
Of course, yeah. And they often feel very helpless.
Yeah.
They want to find solutions, but they don't know how to help.
What do you do?
Right, and it can be very hard on the family dynamic.
Yeah.
Especially if there's not a good understanding of what's causing these behaviors in the first place.
And I imagine that's where, like, open communication is so important.
Yes, absolutely. We need open communication. We need compassion. We need to create spaces where individuals feel safe talking about their struggles.
It really feels like we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Like understanding it is a big part of it. But I do have to ask, what do we do with this information?
Well, and that's the thing, right? We've uncovered some heavy stuff today.
Yeah.
But just recognizing the problem, that's the biggest step.
Okay.
And there are strategies, there is support available to help manage this.
So for someone listening right now who's maybe identifying with some of this stuff,
Right.
what can they do?
Well, it's not, one size fits all.
Right.
Everybody's different. But I think a really good place to start is seeking out a multidisciplinary approach.
Okay.
So that might be connecting with a therapist who understands both autism and BFRBs.
Okay.
Because they can really get down to, what the underlying triggers are.
So getting to the root of it.
Exactly, not just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms. And then, depending on how severe it is, a dermatologist can also be a valuable part of the team.
To deal with the after effects.
Exactly.
Are there any therapies, though, that have been shown to be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, cognitive behavioral therapy can be really, really effective.
CBT?
Yeah, because it's really about helping individuals become more aware of, those thoughts and feelings that lead up to that urge to pick or bite.
So being mindful of it.
Yes, exactly. And then working with them to come up with other things to do instead.
Instead of picking, they might squeeze a stress ball or something.
Exactly.
Or take deep breath.
It's about finding what works for that person, right? Another technique is called habit reversal training.
Okay.
And that's a lot about, becoming more conscious of the behavior and then replacing it with something else.
So being aware of it and then redirecting. It seems like, having sensory tools around could be really helpful too.
Absolutely. Managing sensory input, can make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah.
Whether that's, creating a calming environment at home.
Like weighted blankets and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Soft clothing, noise-canceling headphones, whatever it takes, to reduce those triggers.
And what about skincare?
Oh, yeah. I mean, skincare is huge.
That's got to be such a big part of it.
Gentle skincare is so important. It's about soothing and healing the skin, but it's also just about self-care in general.
Taking care of yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds like communication is the biggest takeaway here, right?
It really is, yeah. Open and honest and compassionate communication.
Yeah.
Between the individual and their family and everyone around them.
So you're not suffering in silence.
Exactly, yeah. Creating that safe and supportive environment where somebody feels comfortable saying, hey, I'm struggling with this.
And it's about changing how we look at it.
Yes.
It's not about being judgmental. It's about saying, okay, this is something that's happening.
Yeah.
And how can we help you?
Exactly. And the more we talk about it, the more we can reduce the stigma.
This has been so informative.
Oh, good.
I really appreciate you being here and talking to us about all this.
Oh, of course.
Is there anything else that you want to leave listeners with?
I would just say, if you're listening to this and this is resonating with you, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Seeking help is a sign of strength, and there are so many people out there who want to help.
So take that first step, right?
Yes, you're stronger than you think, and there are people who want to help you find your way.
I love that. Well, thank you again for joining us for this really, really important deep dive.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you next time.